caving with your friends and they all are contributing to the survey, but then there's like one person drawing the map. It's like, why can't we have distributed, map drawing where, multiple people are working on the same map essentially. So it's up to date because even in digital, there's still like a decent amount of like cleanup that you got to do to make it look reasonably good.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's a fantastic idea. So again, as I said earlier, I'm, really looking forward to using. So the way that I used Caveware previously, and I had to follow a certain set of rules with the kind of cartography I was doing. There are a lot of old paper notes, and they sometimes didn't sketch to scale, or even if they did, they would be sketching on little pieces of survey paper, and then they go off to the edge, and you try to match them up, and then it ends up not fitting very well. And so Caveware is just a fantastic tool to take 6 or 8 or 10 sheets of survey and make it fit right because that's what it does, right?
Yeah.
And then you could take that out and then sketch over it. And it does. There was a tool years ago, um
Yeah, I think
cart cart carto.
Cardo. Yeah.
It was awesome. Carto was great. I used it for a long time, and I kept it running as long as I could. And about that time is when Caveware came out. And so, there was a tool available, and of course still is. Um, and so, that's the way that I've used it. And I think a lot of other people have been able to make really good maps.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's cool that people are actually using it. Like that's I developed it for myself. Just wanted to share the love with others.
Definitely, definitely. So, yeah, okay. So people are coming in. Thanks for everyone joining. We'll get going here a little bit. Hey, Dane. Yeah, we'll give folks another few minute or two or three or something. So, Dane, I'm glad that the CO2 in the bottom of that cave wasn't like really bad and that you like recognized what was going on and climbed back out of there. And then you actually went back to confirm it, and that's good. Take one for the team. Do good testing. So, and there's a map from that, right? Looks like you're frozen, Dane.
It's frozen. I know when I've been in high CO2 passages, they make me kind of claustrophobic.
Me too. Yeah, I've been in the same situation. So yeah, Dane, you're still on mute. If are you hearing me and Philip? We've been chattering. Okay, head nod. Cool. Yeah, and we were talking about your CO2 scare.
Let's see. Am I off mute now?
Yes.
All right. Good. Just checking. It was like kind of frozen or something for a second or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Can
Yeah,
hear you
we
now.
I made the map. I did confirm it. It was really weird. First time I've ever had bad air in a cave. Couldn't figure out what was going on. And yep, thankfully it was a small thing and it was easy to get out of.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. That's cool. Yeah. I think it happens a fair amount. And then for a long time, um, uh, I'm blanking out real quick. People, I don't remember who it was, but there were some people who were doing radon and CO2 measurements pretty frequently in caves, but I'm trying to remember the name of the report. But I've been up since 4 o'clock, so um, it's been a long day. My brain isn't working all the way. And they found that there was number one, there's a fair amount of radon in caves. But there's also quite a few caves that have, varying levels of CO2.
Yeah.
I'm working on a, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say Anna Pierce went to a 100-foot pit in Huntsville, I think on Green Mountain, and experienced bad air at that pit, which is a little scarier because like you're at the bottom of a 100-foot pit, so you're gonna have to do some work to get out. Um, but
Right.
they all got out and they were fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it's not something that like um I think we've talked about it a lot. So there's this hole we're digging. Maybe it'll go to a cave, I'm not sure, but actually there is cave underneath of it. It just hasn't gotten to the open part of the cave yet. We know that it's over there. And last time I was there, it it had kind of a deadness to it, the feeling. And I was wondering if CO2 had settled in there, but it was easy to um, mix that air just by going up and down a ladder a couple of times, and it's fine. But I was actually in that one by myself as well, so little pits. So all right, let's see here. We're 4 minutes after. Um, yeah. So let's see. Looks like you froze up again, Dane. Can you hear me? Can other people hear me? I hope it's not my Wi-Fi here.
I can hear you just fine.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hi, Marco.
Hi.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, Dane, I'm not seeing you in the list. I think Dane, let's give him a minute to come back in. Okay, well, while he's coming back in, so at the beginning here, Philip and I were just talking about this presentation, well, about Caveware in general. This is the really cool software that Philip created a few years ago and is now working on um, seeing if there are some ways of adding sketching to it and doing multi-person sketching and cartography. So if you haven't looked at the presentation that he gave recently for Out of Bounds Grotto, it's available here, outofboundsgrotto.org, learn caveware. And we see updates from time to time that Philip is sharing on social media. So stay tuned there. And so this evening, this is the fifth digital cave surveying presentation of our current series. And if you're not already aware, all of the presentations in this series are listed here on the survey and cartography section of the NSS at sacs.caves.org/presentations. And the ones that have already happened are available on YouTube on the Sax Talks YouTube channel. And there are a number of presentations here. So here are the last four. Most recently was Bo, there he is, talking about his transition from paper to digital. And then before that, there were three others. And then you can also find additional presentations on this site. And so in 2 weeks, we're going to be wrapping up this series. John's going to talk about cave survey, project planning, and management. And there's also going to be some presentations on this topic at the upcoming NSS convention. And I'm looking now into a way of getting those recorded so that we can add those to the digital survey resource repository. I did mention Philip's presentation available here. And there are a number of others that you can find on the web. And so again, all of these resources, I'm compiling together into a spreadsheet, and there'll be a presentation about that at the NSS convention. Essentially, it's like a literature review of online digital survey. Does anyone even use that terminology anymore? Literature review? I mean, when was the last time? Like, I've got a book over here that I've been reading, but it's not often that we pick up paper. Typically, we're online, so maybe it's a an online content review. And the title of that presentation is Learning Pathways for Digital Survey and Sketch. So I hope to find a way to be able to share that with all of you. All right. And so tonight we're going to hear from Dane Garreau on the use of Topodroid that he has been using in his caving explorations. Dane is a very active caver in tag. He's out most weekends and some weekdays, pushing caves, dropping pits, finding new pits, dropping them, surveying them, and making maps. And he is a very prolific map maker. He's won awards, including the Sarah Merritt Award for his Graham Springs map, which is super cool. And you can find many of his maps on social media, and you will see his characteristic partial redaction on his map, which has come to be like Dane's map signature. When he's not caving, Dane's teaching the next generation the finer details of physical education. And so if they ever choose to become cavers, keep recruiting them, Dane. They'll be ready to pick up our explorations where we have left off. So I'll stop sharing. And Dane, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Aaron, for the kind words. Yep. Like Aaron said, I cave and tag. I love all kinds of different caving, but surveying is probably my biggest passion, closely followed by big pit bouncing. And so I have on several occasions had the pleasure of surveying big virgin pits, a few of them. So that's like the ultimate. I started off with paper survey in 2000. I got interested in survey. I surveyed a cave, a help survey. I was on point. In late 2019, I got interested in it. And then COVID happened, early 2020. I read On Station over and over and over again, and I saw all of Derek Bristol's videos on YouTube. And I sort of taught myself how to survey, and I went out and did it and made several mistakes along the way. But at this point, 5 or 6 years later, I feel like I am a fairly competent sketcher and pretty good with the cartography part of it as well. I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks, some of them advanced, some of them not quite as advanced, using Topodroid. So I did start with paper. I resisted the change, but then when I realized how accurate digital survey is, I decided, well, you just have to do it this way because accuracy is important. And you don't actually lose any artistic points. And I'll talk about that later with the presentation. But yeah, so let's see. I'm going to share my screen. And Aaron, if there's any questions, drop them in the chat, and Aaron can just burst in and ask the question right there. I'll be glad to answer it. All right, looks like I am sharing. Yes, good. Great. Okay. Okay. Aaron, is the presentation showing up on your end?
Yes, I see Advanced Topodroid Techniques, Dane Garreau.
All right, perfect. Okay, I guess I'm going to start with this, and that is digital does not mean that you're going to abandon all the old ways of surveying. I think a lot of people get in love with digital and displays, and they kind of forget some of the older ways of surveying. And I just want to say, you should not forget those. You should incorporate them. A lot of people in tag when they first start, they rig everything IRT, indestructible rope technique. Just put a rope pad down, throw the rope in the pit, let it rub. Who cares? It's 11 mil rope. And then eventually you learn alpine techniques. But sometimes you're going to need to rig things IRT. And I would just say that sometimes you're going to need to use some of the old ways. And I think the biggest one, and so as I said, I'm in tag, so I do a lot of pits. I survey a lot of pits, a lot of vertical caves, a lot of verticality. And I have learned that using a tape measure is required for big pits, especially, and sometimes little ones too. In the picture, you can see Terry McClanathan, better known as Monk. We taped a pit. We were not surveying it. It had already been surveyed. We just wanted to make sure it was actually 100 foot deep, and it was. But so I learned from Terry about surveying a little bit, and I also surveyed some with Marion O. Smith. And the old timers are really, really adamant about taping pits and measuring them with a tape measurer, not just the vertical distance from the lip of the pit to the bottom. And we'll see a slide later on about that. But I'm going to just tell you that the tape is going to come in really, really handy, even if it's only there for reference. I learned this trick from Ben Miller, who also surveys a lot of deep pits. He's surveyed, I don't know, probably 20 or more 100-foot pits. And the tip was use the tape measure, and it's going to be there for reference. So when you're sketching the pit, the profile on the way up, you don't have to guess, am I 20 feet off the floor where the wall indents in? Am I 30 feet? You can just look at the tape measure and it'll tell you, which will make your sketches a lot more accurate. Because even though you're taking all kinds of splays, you're probably not getting a complete 360 up and down of the shaft. So the tape measure is going to help you sort of fill in those blanks. And we're going to talk about more stations, more better. The more of them you have, the better, because then you get more data points. And then this is sort of one that took me a while, but take it slow. When you're surveying, this would be paper or digital. When you're surveying a big pit, it's going to take some time. You're not just going to shoot one shot straight to the bottom. You're not just going to look at it for 5 minutes and then fill in the details. Like, it's going to take some time. So if everyone on your crew knows that, if you know that, everyone can stay warm. Everyone will enjoy it much more. Okay. On the left, you can see Ben Miller's sketch of Green's Well, a very popular 230-foot pit in tag. A very nice sketch. Pretty sure this was done with paper, but we're going to talk about how to do it with digital. And on the right, you can see Granny's Well is a classic Built Road map. And my point with showing these two pits is this is an excellent opportunity to use multiple stations. If you rig it Granny's Well in the right spot, you can get the rope to go straight down and not touch anything. So theoretically, you could just take one shot to the bottom and just be almost done with the cave. But my technique is any ledge, anything that juts out, anywhere where the rope might touch, I tell my person on point to make a point. We don't want to shoot this pit in one shot. We don't want it, even if it would be easy, even if it would be nice. This is a surface pit. We've got time. Let's take some additional points. So if we look at Granny's Well, we see you get the first 62 feet. that would be where I would tell my point person to point right there. Because number one, there's some significant walking passage right there. And it would be a great spot for a vertical cross section. So I would tell my point person, okay, take a point there. Instrument person, at that point, take lots of splays, horizontal splays. And then in Topodroid, I would open up a new sketch, and I'll show you this in a few minutes. I would open up a new sketch, and then I would draw one of these vertical splays like Ben Miller has on his map. If you look at Green's Well here, and if you've ever been to it, you know it starts out one size and it just gradually bells out and gets bigger and bigger. The vertical splays, or excuse me, the vertical cross sections really show that well and kind of add a real flair to this profile, because you look at the profile, you go, okay, that's a deep pit. I can tell it's big. The ropes in the middle of it, that's nice. There's a waterfall, great. But then you go over and you look at the cross sections and you go, oh, you can really tell it almost doubles in size midway down from the top. And then if I had the bottom of it, you can see it got even bigger. So I think that's just a really great technique to do. It does not require that much more time, and it will just make the map so much better. We look at Bill Turode's map, and Bill's objective was not to produce the best map ever. He wanted for every cave in Alabama to have a map. And this was a time when not many of them did. So he did them quick and dirty, and they were very useful, but they could have been better. So we look at it, and what if there was a vertical cross section at each one of these ledges? It would just really add, because you look at the plan view at the top, and if you look at it close enough, you can figure out what's going on. But man, it would be great to have these cross sections out to the side. So this is where, when you're surveying, it's kind of a team effort. It's kind of a group effort, and it's your job as the sketcher to direct the team and like really, tell the point person, hey, we're not shooting one straight down, like every little ledge, everything, we want a station there. There's a lot of surveys I go on where I tell the person, like, nothing over 50 feet. Do not shoot anything over 50 feet, because if it's a complex passage, whether it's horizontal or a vertical shaft, anything over 50 feet gets a little difficult to do. And, I'll certainly break that rule if we're laying in a stream of water and there's really not much going on. But if it's pretty comfortable, I really like to keep it under 50 feet, more so aiming for like 25 to 40 feet makes for a nice shot. But yeah, that's just it's just a great opportunity to use multiple stations if there are no ledges. So we'll look at Green's Well. You are dropping straight down the middle of the shaft. One of the best pits, maybe my favorite open air pit, by the way. There are no ledges to put a station on. So this is the technique. You're going to have your station. You're going to use your tape measure, of course, your 300-foot tape measure that you walk around ridge walking with. And you're going to make a station where the tape measure goes over the lip. And you can make, and then you have the tape measure go down and the dumb end on the bottom. And you're going to go into your Topodroid app, and you're going to manually put in the stations. The tape goes straight up and down, so it's always going to be minus 90 degrees for the inclination. And you can choose, do I want to do a vertical cross section every 20 feet, every 40 feet, every 50 feet? If it's a big pit, every 100 feet. And then you would just manually enter that in. So we'll take Green's Well for an example. It's 230. Let's say we're going to do it every 50 feet. All right. We'll say that this is A1 at the top, A2 where the tape goes over, A3 is going to be 50 feet down. So that would be, so if it's 230, we'll subtract 50, it's going to be 180. So when you get to that 180 on the tape, you are at station number, whatever the next station is. And then at station 130 on the tape, you're at the next station. And you can just take your splays with your disto from there. And that will give you a great way to get vertical cross sections in a pit that does not have ledges. Greenswell would probably not be the best place to try this for your first time. Maybe do a small pit first. But if the tape is not touching anything, then it's very, very easy just to manually enter in all the data and make sure that you equal whatever the tape measure reads at the top. Okay, here's the next reason for the tape measure. Pit depth should be measured by the amount of rope that it takes to do the pit, not including rebelays and things like that. So we're going to look at half shot pit. This is another classic built road map. We see that he has said it's 130 feet from top to bottom. If you lay a 130-foot rope from the lip, you will not reach the bottom because there are all these little ledges that the rope runs over. I mean, this pit should probably have like 4 or 5 rebelays, but I know that in 1968, they just threw it down there. So the pit depth is going to be more than 130 feet. It's probably closer to 140 or maybe, yeah, probably 140-ish. So even though you're using digital survey, I think it would be, I like what Built-A-Road did here. This is a great thing, but I would also like the pit depth to be here and say 140 or whatever the tape measured, if he measured it like that. Just to give the purest pit measures out there something to go on. Same thing with slant well over here on the left. This is another very, very slanty pit. There is, you could do some of this without being on rope, but you really wouldn't want to if it was wet. It's a pretty neat looking pit, but once again, this is not a 131-foot pit. These are shear drops. The rest is angled, but just because it's not shear doesn't mean it's not part of the pit. So use a tape measure. It is important. Okay, let's get into the real nitty gritty of Topodroid. This is the #1 thing that people get confused by when I'm first teaching them how to use it, or they've taught themselves, and they'll come up to me and they'll say, my profile is doing something wonky. I can't figure out what it's doing. Topodroid is really smart, and it tries to decide whether your profile should go right or left or just vertical. And sometimes it's correct and sometimes it's not. You're in the cave, you're looking at it, so you can determine better than it can. But it will automatically do it, and you're going to be confused. So hoping this video will work. Yes, okay. Here is Bad Air Cave. I want you to focus on station B1 to B2. That was the first shot. You see how it's angling to the left, which was correct. I was going more towards this other entrance. But what if that was not correct? I would go out, I would click on B1 to B2. And even here, I'm hoping you can see my little cursor hand guy. You can see what direction it is chosen, it thinks it should be going. But you can click on it, and then you can change it. You can decide whether it should just go straight up and down or right or left or whatever. You have to go in and manually change it. Press save, press OK. Go back to the profile sketch, and then now look. Let's see, let's get it stopped. Now it has, oh man, it's not pausing. Okay, it paused. Now it has gone to the right, which is what I told it to do. Now it's made everything else wonky because it doesn't really go to the right, but you can control where you want it to go. Let's say, for instance, that the shot was not angling towards either other entrance. And it was, oh man, how do I describe this? The shot was not trending in the way the cave is trending. You would probably want to select vertical so that it doesn't extend the profile left or right. It just goes straight down, whatever the depth is. So if the shot goes a true 20 feet, it will just take your station 20 feet down in a straight up and down line. I don't know if I did that on the video, but maybe I did. Okay, well, you choose vertical if you wanted that. Oh, I did. Okay, good. Okay, and then there we have it. Now the shot is going straight up and straight down. This is, man, this is probably, like I said, this is the first thing people mess up on, and it confuses them. So there you go. That's how to change your profile direction. All right. We mentioned this earlier about vertical cross sections. For a big pit, you should have at least a few, or you would like to have a few. If it's a 40-foot pit, I don't know that you need any. However, if it's like a pretty blind pit and there's not a lot going on, this is one way to really like spice up the map and give it something, give it a little oomph, is to have the vertical cross sections, especially if the size gets different. So if it starts real small and you're like in a phone booth for 10 feet and then it bells out and then it bells out again, if you see that on the map, it's really, really telling for the map reader, like, oh, okay, this pit bells out. You can see it in the cross sections. So I'll click the video and then, okay, praline pit. I probably should have done more here, but I think I only did 2. It's a nice pit. Okay. This is the top of the pit. These are the rocks. Sorry, I do all my own cartography, so I know what all my little shortcuts look like, and I know what everything is going to be. So everything's not labeled perfectly. Please don't judge me too hard. You got your rocks, you got your slope, you've got your sort of sink, like where the ground sort of funnels to where the breakover point is, and that's the little circle. So I don't even try to sketch the bottom of the cave because it's going to get confusing. So what I do is I go in and I just create a new sketch. And you'll click your sketch button and press new sketch. I don't press it in the video, but I did when I was at the pit. I press new sketch. So now I can have this sketch, and it is the bottom of the pit, and I don't have the confusing part of the upper pit of the entrance, because I do like to put a lot of detail at the entrance so you can see what side slopes downhill, what side slopes uphill. Are there rocks, like big exposed rocks? Is it just sort of in a blind hillside? So I like to put a lot of detail, especially on these like sort of just blind pits. And if I put all that detail, it's going to look real messy if I just put the plan views on top of each other. So I like to separate them out. And by creating that new sketch, now I don't have to worry about all that junk getting in the way. Now I can just sketch the bottom of the pit. And this was like a 45-foot pit. We did not do a vertical cross section halfway. The size didn't change too much. But we probably should have or could have. But yeah, isn't that nice without all the junk in the way? And then you can label it. I labeled it bottom. I'm going to create another one. It's very, very easy to create a new sketch. And now I've got a clean sketch. So I could do another one. Okay, that's how you do the cross sections. And you can make it as simple or as complex as you want and do a bunch of them, or just do one for the top and one for the bottom. You probably noticed from those sketches, I do not use any of the fancy brushes on Topodroid. I export all of my sketches as SVG, and SVG works a lot better without the brushes and the symbols, all the fancy stuff. So I'm going to click the video and I'll sort of show you. I use the one on the, well, I use the red for walls. I just skip all this stuff. There's a lot of great ones. And if you use them and it works for you, awesome. I don't like them. I like the artistic part of it. I want to just write. I don't want to switch back and forth. So, oh, and here's a little tip. That little guy right there that was just clicked, that's how you make your line connect. So if you want the line to connect, you press that. So I'll use the red for the walls, and sometimes symbols too, but usually just for walls. And we'll just kind of throw that out there, pretty close, make that look better. Okay, so after I get my walls drawn, then I go to, I think it's called the user line. And that's just the little white pencil. And I basically use that to draw everything except for rocks. I will use the green one that you can see right there. I will use that for rocks, but nothing else. So I'll press play again. And here we go. There's my slope symbol. That was much faster than having to find it in the thing. Oh, it's mud at the bottom. I'm just going to write mud. You don't need to go there and make every little thing look like the symbol you're going to use on Adobe Illustrator. It's mud. Just write mud. If it's faster to do the symbol, the little line, you can do that. That's fine. But when I look back at my notes, I know that is mud because it says mud. And I don't have to interpret anything. I don't have to guess. It's just mud. When I was surveying or assessed well, Justin Huffman helped me on the project. And I think he gave me the first ever digital notes from Topodroid. So I got home and I put them in the computer and I export them and do all the things. And I saw this is what he did. He just wrote gravel floor next to the passage or inside the passage or whatever. You know, he didn't need to go there and dot, 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 the whole thing, like just write gravel. Now, if you're at Mammoth, I don't know if you can do this, but for me, I do all my own cartography. So this is the way I like to do it. Maybe check with your cartographer before you do this. I think it's the best way.
Dane,
Yes.
so we have a question in
Okay.
the chat from Angel. Where do you open the new sketch option?
All right. You open the new sketch option when you, oh man, this was tough because I couldn't get Topodroid on the computer. So I had to do it on my tablet and then export these little videos. I think I'm going to show it later on, or I can go back to the other video. I think.
Okay. If it comes up later, that's great. And otherwise, we can pick up that question again at the end of your presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. All right. So going here again, I'm just writing flowstone. What do I need to write the little symbol for? We can just write flowstone. Okay. I do use the rock symbols. Those export very well. SVG to Adobe Illustrator. You draw your rocks and it kind of looks nice. There we go. We zoomed in. Yep, it says mud. Oh, okay, never mind. It wasn't mud. It was gravel. This was a gravel bottom, not a mud bottom. Gravel floor. There we go. As opposed to a gravel ceiling. And so, you know, this might not seem advanced to a lot of people, but this speeds up your sketching. You're going to sketch more caves, more passage. And in my opinion, it is faster, easier, and leads to fewer errors when you're on the computer at home trying to decipher what your little handwriting says. I think that's all for that one. Okay, I might be able to answer that question. The next one, let's see, and the next one maybe. Okay, how do I do traditional cross sections? Like if you're in a horizontal, you know, borehole, how do you do them? I don't do them on Topo. I do, but I have not found the best way to do them. I think there are some ways. I will not be the one to be able to tell you, but this is my advanced trick. Teach someone on your team how to do cross sections and make them do it. The point person is probably the best person to do that. I will give them paper and a pencil and I'll teach them how to do it. And I'll look at it a few to see if they're doing halfway decent. And that's the best way to do it, is having someone else do it. So you don't have to worry about it. You can just do profile and plan view. And then I will gladly upload these onto my map. So if you want to learn how to do them on Topodroid, you're going to need to ask somebody else. Okay. You've probably heard horror stories of people losing their sketches on Topodroid. Yes, it has happened to me. It actually happened to me on my last survey trip. No idea. Sketch just vanished. All the data is there. Sketch just gone. Poof, into the wind. Export your sketches often. You can just keep exporting. So if you survey 200 feet, export it. And then survey 200 more feet, export it again. It'll just update the file. But you're going to save yourself a lot of headache by exporting. The number one time when you should export is when you create a new sketch. If you create a new sketch before you get out of the one you're doing, you should export it. Even if it's not finished, go ahead and export it just in case. This happens more often than it should. I wish I could tell you the way to make it not happen. But this is how I have solved the problem, which I guess I didn't last time because I forgot and I lost it. And then I had to go back and resketch it. Luckily, it was only like 80 feet. Okay, here's how you export. I've got my sketch. I'm done. There's no leaves. I've drawn it beautifully. At least all the floor is covered. We know what's going on. That's the profile that I didn't do anything on. Okay, I'm gonna click those little 3 buttons eventually. Oh yeah, I do like to put a check mark. That's what I'm doing in the video. I put a check mark just to like give myself like, hey, you're done. There's nothing else to do here. It is done. Check mark. Okay, 3 buttons. Go to export. Hopefully you can see my hand. I do it SVG. I don't know how you do it. Yep, click that SVG. This is all I export and press save. And then you'll see it at the bottom that lets you know that you saved it. Okay, I think I'm going to show you how to do another one. Ah, yes. Okay. All right. I paused it. So I hope you can see my hand. I pressed this button, the sketch button, and you can see I've got all my sketches. I've got number 1 plan. That's the top, bottom plan just for fun that I made up. If you want to make a new sketch, you're going to press the new sketch button. And I think I do this in the video. So let me press play. I did. I pressed new sketch. And then I'm going to label it. And then press OK. And now you've got your new sketch. That's how you do it. let's see. How do we do that? Okay. That's how you do it. Okay, that is the end of my PowerPoint presentation. If there are any questions, I would be glad to either answer them or give you a name of someone who can answer them.
So there is another question.
Oh,
So Philip's asking if you know how the lost sketch issue happens, or are there any characteristics of it that you can use to predict?
nope. It has happened to me, I think, twice. And I do think it happened when I created a new sketch, which is why I made sure to say, when you create a new sketch, export. So that if it happened, that's when it's happened. It hasn't just happened out of nowhere. I think I went to go create a new sketch and then I went back to it and then just all of a sudden it was gone.
Hmm.
I'm not the only one this has happened to. It's happened to a lot of people, and I wish it would not happen, but
Okay. What tablet do you use?
let's see. I have it here. I've got a Active Tab 2 Samsung. I think I
Okay.
got it for around $70 used on eBay. It came with a stylus, which you should tether your stylus, and a little case. And this has been, I've had no issues, and I've surveyed, I think, over 2 years with it. I've had zero issues. I think Michael Ketzner is the person who recommended it to me, and he said when he gets home from a cave trip, he just puts it under the faucet and cleans it like that. I don't do that.
Mhm.
I just take a wet or a moist washcloth and kind of do a once over everywhere. Um, I did take the cover off and go in with electrical tape and cover all the seams and like the speaker and the microphone. So the only like thing that's open is the little port that you plug in to charge it. But yeah, I do recommend it. It is a little bigger and heavier and bulkier than I like, but it gives you a big screen to look at stuff. So if I was going 1,000 meters deep, I might opt for like a Samsung Note or something like that. But for these shallow tag caves, I think it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's the same one I use also. Yeah, and I was asking that out of curiosity as well as wondering if that is in some way related to the lost sketch issue. I've heard other people have that problem as well, but it's never happened to me. Like I don't ever recall having lost a sketch, but I also do the same technique that you do, which is to make a new sketch. Like I will make many sketches. I'll even do new sketches for cross sections and really complex pieces of cave. And end up with lots and lots of them. And that actually leads us to a question, and Bo, will come back to your question here, but Philip is asking, do you ever use scraps?
Uh,
Since now we're talking about multiple sketches.
Scraps like what? I'm sorry, I don't. What
In
is that?
So scraps is the terminology in Therion for basically survey books. Um, and so by making many different sketches like we're talking about, you can reassemble them in Topodroid using the scraps approach.
Yeah,
Uh,
just to clarify, there's I think Derek Bristol was had a thing on scrapping in Topodroid. And I was just curious if you've had any experience. I didn't actually find that option when I was using Topodroid a couple weeks ago, but anyways.
I definitely do not do it because this is the first I've heard of it. So no, I don't really do it. Also,
Okay.
I'm in the chat now. I see Bo says, "What does include the cross sections on export actually do?" I don't know because I don't do cross sections like the way you're supposed to on Topodroid. I will do them manually, and I'll like you know count the boxes to figure out like, okay, this is 10 feet tall. Let me do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and so I do it manually, kind of like you would on a piece of paper, a piece of graph paper, like if you were doing with normal paper. So I don't know. I don't actually do it the correct way. Um, that's probably a part of my game that could be stepped up for sure. Um, so once again, I'm not the person to ask about cross sections.
Okay. And then Bo, you have another question?
Oops. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm driving to Carstorama.
All
I'm in and
right.
out of, yeah. I had a question. I kind of want to investigate while we had everyone on the call about the left, right, or vertical symbol for the profile view, because I'm trying to think of what I haven't thought about that enough. And when I make like my paper profile view, it's always just to the right. And if it veers left, I might even make it its own little page and it just also goes to the right. And on the computer, if I need to switch it, I'll just like mirror it on Illustrator. But are we supposed to switch to the left and the right if we want an extended? Does it matter if we switch during it? Could we do them all to the left or the right? I mean, does anybody know what the safest bet is if you want to make an extended profile in Topodroid?
I can tell you. All right, I'm going to tell you when you should use both of them. So I like everything to go left to right, but let's pretend that you drop down a pit and then the passage goes under itself. So you've been going along for
Oh, yeah.
and so then I would use the left so that it makes it go under it. And then you have it on one sketch and you have less error when you're sort of piecing them together. And
I'm
then
going to add to that. I'm going to add to that because I have a different opinion. And this is purely coming from like developing Caveware and thinking about this problem for a long time. As soon as you turn, like the idea behind an extended profile is you're deleting the azimuth angle. And so when you're deleting the azimuth angle, essentially the only direction that your extended profile should go in is like one direction from like left to right. So if you go
Okay.
down to go down to your like your example of you're in the top of the passage, you go down a pit and then you go back underneath it. If you keep it, if your passage if your passage does that, it'll just warp, at least in Cave where it'll just warp in the direction that the next shot is going. So it'll basically turn the whole thing in the right direction. But a lot of times with vertical pits, they are complex and they do go back and forth. And the correct projection, in my opinion, to use is a projected profile where you pick an azimuth and then like you draw on that particular plane, and then you'd capture your like left to your underneath passage, if that makes sense. I think the vertical component in Topodroid, you should never use it because it has no spatial context at all in putting it into like a three-dimensional model. It's as simple, it's essentially like not using a compass bearing on your plan or not using the Clino on your plan, but just in a vertical standpoint.
Okay, that made sense too. I know this is going to be an ongoing, maybe we might add to this. Baby's having a rough time in the car also or anything. So, oh no, I'm blanking. Hang on, this is important. I'm come back to me. Sorry.
Okay, we're gonna come back to you, Bo, because I'm gonna disagree a little bit with Philip on this. All right, so let's pretend we're just in a regular borehole passage and we get to the edge of a pit and we go down the pit. And now the passage goes both ways. It goes under the upper passage, what you were just in, and it also goes the same trend as the upper passage. That's when that left right orientation for your profile on Topodroid is going to be very handy, because when you survey underneath, you're going to want to go left. And when you survey like going on, you're going to want to go right, because the passage is going two distinct directions. And then I'm also going to tell you when you should use the vertical line. All right. Let's pretend once again we're in a just a big borehole, and your point person puts the station on the far left wall. Okay, and we get to the edge of a pit. He puts it on the far left wall. Well, the bolts and where we need to go down at and use the instrument from is on the right edge of the wall. It's on the right wall. Yeah, right wall. Now let's pretend that this passage is 40 feet wide. If you shoot across, that's a 40-foot shot. And if you use right or left, it's going to make that passage seem 40 feet longer. If you use the vertical thing, it will not seem any longer at all. It will only account for the height distance. So that's one time when I like to use the vertical orientation for the profile.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying there. You're essentially like you're essentially mixing a extended profile and a projected profile together from a cartography standpoint. From a modeling standpoint, you're essentially like deleting that you're deleting that 40-foot stretch of cave. And for me, I just like to keep on running like going back to your original example where like the passage goes left on the bottom of the pit and it goes right on the bottom of the pit. Usually I'll just break the profile at that point and then just start drawing a profile off of the other direction. And then when I get back into Caveware, it blends them all together, and then I can rotate in any orientation and make a projected profile for the cave. So that's kind of the workflow I go off of. And you can do the same thing. If you're going left or right, then you just cut the profile off and you can still get that three-dimensional morphing. But it just depends on like what your workflow is and how you use your profiles.
That made a lot of sense from what both of you said. So that was really helpful. Also, I remember I was asking now, the profile, when you click profile, does it default to like looking at the map from a certain angle? Like, is it always looking north against your profile? Or is it just stretching it as far as it can stretch it, the most optimal thing? Does anyone know about that? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, and maybe Dan can add to this if I get it wrong. But essentially, an extended profile, there's no azimuth to it. So you just keep on going, and no matter how many turns your passage does, if it's meandering around, you just keep on adding shots to it. And then when you get back to the computer, hopefully you can morph that and make like some other type of profile, or maybe you want to show an extended profile versus like a projected profile. You essentially have like shortening of your shots because you're projecting those shots onto a particular plane. So for example, so those would like, it's similar to like a plan, but you've just rotated it vertically, if that makes sense. So like
Yeah, it makes sense. There's not a projected profile line plot option in Topodroid.
There
Like you don't
is.
click it. Oh shit.
Yeah, there is. So when you make a new
As you're sketching,
yeah. So if you not as you're sketching, you have to do, if you make a new drawing, there's a button that says projected profile, and then you can choose the azimuth that the projected profile is.
oh,
And then you get a projected profile. And the hard thing about that, I believe it uses look at azimuth. So imagining you like say if you're looking north, you're drawing a profile from west to east, if that makes sense. If you choose a
yeah,
zero.
yeah, that makes sense. I've that's messed me up in SVG exporter too sometimes, the way that it does it. Anyway, cool.
Once you put that azimuth in, you can't change it though, from what I remember. And not that you really want to. Once you start drawing, you really don't want to change that azimuth at all for a projected profile.
Something else to add is that so the cross going back to the cross section discussion, I actually use the projected profile to do additional cross sections because cross sections are profile view, right? I mean, they're just,
Right.
one particular angle that you're looking at. And the reason I use projected is because I want to know, I can look at the numbers of what the survey trend is, and then I can literally dial in exactly, where I want the cross section to be. So I use it in that way. I also will use projected profile after um, the survey. I've done profiles in the way that we have done them traditionally using paper, which is the way you guys just described it. Extended profile, right? Where you just take the numbers and, what degree up, what degree down, what is the slope distance, what degree up, what degree down, and you end up with these long extended things, but it gives you a nice, view of what, the up down is, but you can, as you said before, you can morph it if you need to or change it or whatever. But, that plus the projected afterward, you're making, you're putting this onto your map. You're like, well, how do I really want to look at this thing? And when you're in the cave, you might not know exactly, how you want that to go. And so you can go back into Topodroid and make a new projected profile right there. You have all of your shots, and you've got your extended, and maybe you have done projected profiles in the cave. Certainly you've got your plan. And then you can use that information to fill in the dots on a new projected profile without having to go back to the cave, unless you really want to go back to the cave, of course, then that's cool too. But um, yeah, I've found myself a number of times adding additional projected profiles views because I want them to look a certain way on the map itself. So I think it's a fantastic feature.
Dan or Aaron, do you know how to turn off survey stations on a sketch? Like we had a cave that we were surveying that essentially it spiraled down. And so when you're looking at the plan, you have like 5 or 6 shots with all their splays just on top of each other. And it's really difficult to like, even if you make a new sketch, it's hard to see where you are relative to those splay shots. Like you lose the context because there's just so many there. I was just curious if anyone knows how to do that.
Yes, maybe. I do know how to turn off the splays, and I've got my tablet open and I'm looking at it and I'm trying to remember what to do. So someone else say it if you know it.
Yeah, I mean, this was for like kind of a newer sketcher that one of those splays, at the new stations is really important for them. And it'd be nice to be able to like disable the previous shots if that makes sense.
Can you describe this a little bit more? Because I'm still having trouble understanding what
Yeah,
you're
so
talking
just
about.
imagine like a corkscrew going down,
Mm-hmm.
and you're shooting splay shots at each station. And if you're looking at a plan view, you essentially say if there's 5 stations on top of itself, but like it's not a shaft, it's literally like the passage is just spiraling down.
Mm-hmm.
So you essentially have different plan levels that you're doing, but the upper or lower shots are occluding the current shots that you want to draw off of.
Okay. Yeah. So, and Dane actually described this technique. I'm going to let you describe it, Dane, because you did this already.
Well, I would say you just start a new sketch. Like
Yes.
you're at one level, and when you get to your climb down or pit or whatever, um, that you just need to start a new sketch because it'll get
Yeah,
really messy really, really quick.
yeah, so there was 4 sketches on top of each other. The problem was is the previous levels stations were occluding the new stations survey splays in
Yes.
the new
Okay.
sketch.
I found it. So I'm gonna try and hold my tablet up to my camera, and I'm gonna hope that works. Okay. Um, let's see. I'm gonna bring it in close. You see the button next to the, let's see, the little, this guy? if I press this, if I press it, geez, let me press it and I'll turn it back. All right, if I press it, and I did, it takes the splays away. Now it does give you those dots, which might not
Yeah, that's
help much.
yeah,
But
because you still lose because you want the splays to see what the level you're drawing at on, right? But then if the other splays from the previous stations are at, you have too much splay action going on in one place, if that makes sense. And that's why I was
yeah,
asking about like I think the scraps, I think has some way of it, yeah. I thought the scraps did something like that. That's why I kind of was asking about
So
it.
maybe Marco has a suggestion.
Yes. Um, I don't know how to share my screen, but I can tell you, if you select a leg on a sketch and you go to the editing dialog of the leg, you can choose to hide the survey midline and the place as well on either side of the leg. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm
Y-
pulling up my phone
Uh,
here to try it out.
and uh, let's see. No, probably I cannot share my screen and show you how it is, how it works. But you can try. You tap the third green button, then you select a leg, and then tap the button with the symbol of the note, and then you choose on which side of the leg to hide the survey midline, the survey line. And that means the center line and the place as well.
Is that in the data section, Marco?
No, that is on the sketch,
On the
on the
sketch.
sketch, on the sketch window itself.
how do we select the leg? I should know how to do that.
Yeah. How do you select the leg?
So Marco, at the bottom of the screen, well, or somewhere on the screen, there
On
should be
the
some options like
there are
participants,
no
chat,
no.
and there should be a
Huh?
share. You see the little green with a share? Maybe you can share your screen and show us.
Okay, I see the participant. I'm on the
Participant?
phone.
Yeah, chat. Oh, you're on your phone. Okay.
On your phone.
Oh, I figured it out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let me see if it works. Okay. Well, I got rid of them all. Maybe Marco can tell me if I'm doing this right. Okay, so I'm on my sketch, and I'm going to select the three horizontal bars
Okay.
at the top.
Yeah.
And if I select those three horizontal bars, then it gives me an option
Yeah.
to click those, and that will take away all displays.
No, that wasn't that one.
Yeah.
Not that one. Wrong. Okay.
I'm still trying to find a way to share my phone. The screen. Oh,
It sounds like you
I
mean select the data spot or select the leg in the data section.
no. Tap on the
Oh,
third button on the top.
Third,
There.
but oh, okay. Okay, got it. And it turns everything green.
You got a lot of green dots, and
Yeah.
then there is a green dot on a leg, in the
Okay.
middle of a
Yeah, I see
leg.
it's very small.
Yes.
And then what do you
Then
do?
when you tap on that green dot, the leg has been selected.
Okay.
And then tap on, see, I don't remember which one.
there's a little there's like a little tablet that has like a writing symbol, and then there's a line
Okay.
with a circle with an arrow, and then there's a like a bird symbol.
Green dot. Yeah. Okay. The the button with the little tab, little book with the pencil.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Okay. And then there is an option to say hide the survey from on one side on another. It tells you the station, the end station of the leg.
Okay, yeah, I got that.
You choose that leg. You choose the station you want to hide.
Okay.
Ah, and the station is turned either blue or violet. I don't
Yeah,
remember
it's
which one.
on purple.
Ah,
Oops.
purple. Okay. And
Okay.
all the survey on the side is hidden, right?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, and to bring it back again, you have to select the station this time.
Oh, the purple one?
Yes. And then again, the little page with the pencil,
Oh
and there
boy.
is an option to say, okay, continue to show from this side.
My fingers are too fat. Hold on, let me like zoom in. Okay. Okay, cool. Oh, it's wanting to select the wall because I drew the wall right next to the station. Okay, I got it. Okay, and then I guess let's see, here we go.
But
Oh wow, my sketch is gone. Oh, that's bad. Oh, there it goes. Okay, never mind. Oh, maybe that's how your sketch disappeared.
Could have been.
Okay, yeah. So it's like in this editing mode essentially. There's like a little if people can see, there's like this little finger. If it was one over, it'd look like a middle finger, but yeah, it's like a finger that's like touching something. And then that allows you to edit stuff, and then I guess you can click on things like Marco was saying. Um, and I was able to make uh all this all the splay shots, like all the splay shots are gone on this side of the passage.
Wow.
Oh,
uh, while you are in that editing mode, which is that little finger, if you select a leg, you see that there is a yellow line across it.
okay, yeah.
If you tap on that yellow line, it flips the leg either to the right or to the left or in the middle or vertical, whichever you want.
Okay, so you can do graphically. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, and you can also turn the splays off at that particular station too. I'm gonna have to play around with that because that's really helpful there. Of course, I probably just broke the sketch because I don't know what I'm doing, but that's okay.
If the sketch disappear, you can try the recovery option, which shows you the the latest 4 or 5 sketch that has been saved. Backup. Latest 4 or 5 backup of the sketch. And
Where's
you
where's the recovery option, Marco?
under the menu, the 3 buttons.
In the data. Oh, okay, yeah. Recovery slash paste.
No, in the sketch window.
Oh, in the sketch window. Okay. Uh, okay, I'm not. I see reload.
Reload, yes, this
Oh,
says
okay.
reload, sorry. Didn't remember the right term I put on the menu. And that shows the latest 405.
Okay, so you're saving the whole sketch, and then you can kind of go
You can,
backwards.
yeah, you can kind of go back you, and
Yeah.
pick the one you want.
So you can like once you're in this reload mode, there's like these two buttons here that you can go back and forth, and then it
Yes,
kind of
right.
redraws the whole thing.
And then when you the third button is to reload the one you have picked.
Okay, cool. That's good.
Very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I in the edit mode, I definitely added this line accidentally. Guess I just need to undo that.
Uh,
Nope, nope, that's not working. Nope, there's not an undo there. Okay, well, it's okay. Cool. I'm glad I asked questions.
Thank you for that explanation, Marco.
oh, you're welcome. I'm sorry I could not show myself how to do it, but Phil was very good to follow my instructions.
I'm good at clicking buttons until it works.
Okay, are there other questions? Other topics anyone wants to discuss? Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay, yeah, so,
I found it.
oh yeah, is there a question?
No, I found how to share the screen now.
Oh, you did. Oh, well, I'm gonna, okay.
No, it
Do you want to
disappeared.
demonstrate that?
No, no. You already got everything.
Okay, already got it. Okay, if I'm still sharing my screen, I have the survey and cartography section website up here. And so in 2 weeks, we'll be back again. The presentation will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And I apologize, Marco, that's a little bit later even than this one started. I know it's very late for you right now, but definitely appreciate your participation. But 8 p.m., John's going to talk about project planning and management. And just like this presentation this evening, that one will be recorded. Um, I'm on work travel at the moment, so I'm going to be processing the video of Dane's presentation just as soon as I can, and we'll get that one up here. And then June 19th again, John's going to be presenting. So I think that's all for this evening. Are there any more questions or comments?
Great presentation, Dane.
Thank you. Thank you. I was glad to do it. And I hope everyone learned at least one thing that can help you.
We definitely
Yeah,
did. I always learn. That's one of the reasons why I like take the time to, help facilitate these things because I always learn something new
yeah,
as
really
well. So
appreciate it. Definitely. That's why I come to these things too, is like if I can gain one single bit of knowledge, that's worth the time.
yeah. Plus talking about caves is super cool. So
Yeah.
every excuse we can do, we have to do that. So yeah. And then so yeah, I'll just wrap up with Dane, your photo of that pit um in I think it's in Northeast Tennessee. I'm not going to say the name of it though, but fantastic photo and what a beautiful pit. My gosh, that thing is like what? Wow. So yeah,
Thank you, thank you. That was another one that came recommended from Monk. So when he tells you it's a good pit, you know it's going to be a good pit.
no, it's going to be a good pit. Yep, that's for sure. Cool. All right, Dane, thank you again for the presentation and for sharing your knowledge. And thanks everyone for attending, and we will see you next time.